welcome fellow bookworms to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney and today I have my TBR game video, Once Upon a TBR Hunny Jar. This is my game that I play to choose my TBRs most months. Now I didn't play it in September because it was my birthday month and I like to pick the books that I'm anticipating the most, and in December I won't play it because I do 24 days of Bookmas and I read all Christmas books, basically. It's changed each year, but last year I read Christmas winter themed books, and this year it's basically all Christmas. So I don't play my game. So there is only 2 months left to play my game this year. I created a priority list this year, and so realizing I only had 2 months left because September's out and December's out, I stacked them up. There were some priority series. As far as my priority like standalones, I only have 2 left, so that's not horrible. But I do have some series, and then the Adventures in Aldea I've been participating in, and I'm a little behind on that. Plus the upcoming months I want to read. So I already, each month already has 12 to 13 books for both October and November. And I debated whether I wanted to play my game, but I love my game so much. And so I was like, I really want to play it. And the more I was looking at the piles, it's not the end of the world if I don't get to these. The only thing that's like I'm stuck on is I did put them in one of my reading journals as priorities. And so I was hoping, to complete them in there. And but I realized, like if I don't get to them, it's not the end of the world. So I decided I'm gonna go ahead and play my game. I'm gonna see how many of these I can get on there. Plus, there's some, just spooky season books I want to read. I'm not a big seasonal reader, but spooky season in particular, I really do like to lean into it. So I'm going to go ahead and play my game. I'm going to see how many of the books that I have prioritized I can get into gameplay and game prompts. And then I'm just going to kind of go from there. But I want to play my game for the next 2 months, October and November. And so I decided to just go with it. So I will talk about all the books that are extras that I didn't get into my game at the end, just so I'm not repeating anything. And other than that, I don't have any updates. I'm actually filming this early just because September I have a lot to read and I kind of wanted to get ahead. So I haven't done my wrap up for August yet. This is like we still have a week in August, and I still have several books I need to still get to. And so I haven't done my wrap up yet, so I don't know if I have a reward or not. I don't have any prompts to put back in. So we're just going to get right into it. And I already have series that I want to continue, so I'm not going to worry about the series jar either. So let me get the game board all set up, and then I will be right back with you. Okay, so I do still have 3 reward tokens, which allow me to forego a honey jar prompt if I so choose. And just a reminder, this year we're not focusing on genre, but I still like to try to get the genres. So if I land on blue, I try to for sci-fi, yellow is historical, green is fantasy, red is romance, orange is mystery, thriller, horror, purple is any genre, and this year I'm not doing a honey jar prompt either, so it's literally just a free pick. And if I land on black, I move forward 3 spaces for that one, and I use the genre for whatever space I land on there, and I have to pull 2 honey jar prompts, but if I can make one book work for both prompts, then that's fine. And then we did get Eeyore last time, so if we get Eeyore again, I do have the option to re-roll. Otherwise, 1 is Christopher Robin, which is a coming of age or middle grade. 2 is Pooh Bear, which is a classic or comfort read. 3 is Piglet, which is not by author or reread. 4 is Rabbit, which is a completely free choice. 5 is Owl, which is a memoir, biography, or any type of nonfiction. 6 is Tigger, which is lighthearted or fast-paced. 7 is Eeyore, which is literary or dystopian. And 8 is Kinga and Roo, which is manga, graphic novel, or children's. So let's go ahead and roll to see which character I'm going to be getting. 8. Okay, so that is Kangaroo, which is a manga, graphic novel, or children's, which is perfect. Let me get the characters off the board, and then I will be right back. Okay, so again, just a reminder, and if you're new here, for each space we do move 2 other than purple or black. Those are the only spaces we don't move 2 for. So let's go ahead and see what we get first. Is that one? Okay, that's a green. So we go 1 and 2. So again, try for fantasy. That fulfills the prompt of, I guess that one's trying to jump out, so okay. Apparently I'm going young this month. So this one is Pinocchio and it's middle grade or younger. All right, let's see where we're going next. This one? Okay, that's a yellow. So we go 1, 2, and it says cross the bridge to green. And that didn't have a specific character. So since that's a special square, we don't even have to try for genre, but we do need to fulfill the prompt of, do this one? Okay. This is Little Red Riding Hood, and it's a fairy tale retelling. All right. Let's see what we get next. This one? Okay, that's a blue. So we go 1 and 2. So try for a sci-fi. I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi, so this is probably one that I won't go for the genre on, but I do need to fulfill the prompt of okay. Bookworm, manga, or graphic novel. Next. It's kind of a weird month so far. Okay, another yellow. So we go 1 and 2. So this one does need to try for a historical. This one needs to go with, that is, what is it? The Lost City of Atlantis? It's Search for Treasure. Okay. Let's see where we're going next. Got some interesting ones this round. Okay, another blue. So we go 1 and 2. And the prompt is okay. So this is the Mickey Mouse gang and it's Grumpy Sunshine. Next. This one? Okay, we got a red. So we go 1 and 2 right here. And so this one needs to fulfill the prompt of, do that. Oops. Okay, this one is a bookworm. Come on. And it's dictionary word of the day. All right. Let's see. Okay, we got our first purple. So we go all the way down here. That's a good move. And I literally get to choose anything for this one. All right, we're real close to the end. It'll be interesting to see what we get here. Let's go ahead and do this. All right, so we have a red. And that actually takes us to the end. So we go 1, 2. Oops, I knocked Pooh Bear over. And that brings us to the North Pole, which means we are done. But we still need to pull a prompt. And so this one we'll do, I saw that one. Let's do this one. Okay, so this is, what's the Encanto? And it's generational family. I'm going to go ahead and get my books picked out, and I will be right back with you guys. All right, so I got my books picked out. There was 6 books that I wasn't able to make fit. 3 of them I did put on so they're extras, which isn't too bad because I only had 9 books from the game. So there's going to be 3 extras, so that's 12 books. And then if my family doesn't vote for the book I think they're going to go vote for, that will be an extra book. And then the other 3, it's the start of a series. It's the first 3 books in the series. It's a 6-book series that I put on my priority list for this year. But honestly, those, I'm not upset. I can move them over to next year. It'll probably work better. So those ones are actually just going to go back on my shelf. I'm not going to worry about them since I didn't get the first 3 on this month. I'm not going to worry about them for November either. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. I only had to add on 1 book that wasn't already on my TBR, but it's for the character. So of course we have Kanga and Rue, which is a manga, graphic novel, or children's book. I went the manga route because I did have Spy Family Volume 3 by Tatsuya Endo on my TBR previously, and I did not get to it. And I have the first 4 books, so I obviously want to continue the series. I think it's really, really cute. And so in this one, you have a spy named Twilight, and he gets a case where he has to infiltrate this children's school. So he adopts this little girl, and she is telepathic, but he doesn't know that. So she knows he's a spy, and then in order to get into the school, they need like a traditional family. And so he ends up kind of having this fake marriage with a woman who is actually an assassin. So the little girl knows this about both of them, and it's just really, really cute. Nidra popped up. She was having a nap back there. And I'm excited to continue on since I didn't get to it last time I put it on my TBR. So that's the first book. Then we got a green, which is typically almost knocked over the whole stack. Typically fantasy, like I said, this year, I'm really not worried about the genres if I have something that I'm trying to get on my TBR that works. Obviously, I still want to keep the genres in mind just because I do like to mix it up as far as genres go. So this is not a fantasy, and it doesn't quite fit the prompt, but I'll explain why I'm using it anyway. And so this is Pinocchio, and it's middle grade or younger. So it's not that genre, but it does revolve around these 3 brothers and their childhood. It's a coming of age story, and it's actually, like, from what I understand, it's literary, it's a coming of age, but it's told like in short story format. And that is We the Animals by Justin Torres. Now this is for Aldea. I forget which prompt it is. But this is, I think it's October's pick. But I'll write right here which prompt it is, because I kind of just forgot all about. Aldea's been the adventures in Aldea, or year in Aldea, has been kind of a wreck for me. Which, if you don't know what that is, G from bookworms has the Magical Aurelium readathon that happens in April and September. But throughout the year, you can do the Aldea prompts. And so I've been trying to do that this year, but I haven't been very successful. And so yeah, this fits for whatever that prompt is. Like I said, I'll have had it up. And this one, it's revolving around 3 brothers. It's following the youngest brother, and it's coming of age, and kind of their parents are Puerto Rican descendants from what I understand. And then him coming of age, and I think it's LGBTQIA+. And so it revolves around that as well. So that's going to be my pick since it's following these 3 brothers through their childhood. So even though it's not quite the prompt, I still think it kind of works. So that's what I'm going to go with, just like I said, to help myself out. It is really short, which is nice. Then we got a yellow, which is typically historical, but this one we were across the bridge to green, so genre really doesn't matter in this case. And this one we got Little Red Riding Hood, which was a fairy tale retelling. It's not quite focusing, but I think you can tell what this says. So fairy tale retelling. And for this one, like I said, I have 2 priority reads left. I had 1 and 1 on this month and 1 on November. And so this month was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This is a Pinocchio, based on Pinocchio, so it's a Pinocchio retelling. So this will work for that. And for this one, it says, let's see here. TJ Klune invites you deep into the heart of a peculiar forest and on the extraordinary journey of a family assembled from spare parts. In a strange little home built into the branches of a grove of trees live three robots: fatherly inventor android Giovanni Lawson, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum desperate for love and attention. Victor Lawson, a human, lives there too. They're a family, hidden and safe. Then one day Vic salvages and repairs an unfamiliar android labeled Hap, and he learns of a shared dark past between Hap and Geo, a past spent hunting humans. When Hap unwittingly alerts robots from Geo's former life to their whereabouts, the family is no longer hidden and safe. Geo is captured and taken back to his old laboratory in the city of Electric Dreams. So together, the rest of Vic's assembled family must journey across an unforgiving and otherworldly country to rescue Geo from decommissioning, or worse, reprogramming. Along the way to save Geo, amid conflicted feelings of betrayal and affection for Hap, Vic must decide for himself, can he accept love with strings attached. So, yeah, this will be my first TJ Klune. I've never really been interested in anything by this author, but when this one came out and people were talking about it, like, I was very intrigued, and I actually got it right when it came out. So it's been sitting there for quite a while, and it's definitely time to read this. Like, that's why I put it on my priority TBR, and I am excited to give this author a try. If I really like this one, I might try some of the others. Just none of the premises of the others really pulled to me or called to me. But this one does. So there is that. Then for the next one, we got Blue, which is sci-fi, and we got a Bookworm, which was manga or graphic novel. I ended up using a reward for this prompt, so I used one of the reward tokens, and so this will go back and be put away and no longer be able to be used. And so typically when I use a reward token, it forgoes the Hunny Jar prompt, but I still try to fulfill the genre. In this case, I'm stretching it a little bit. This is actually technically more fantasy, but it kind of does give me sci-fi vibes, even though it's not really at all. It is fantasy. But I'm going to be reading the second book, Fevered Star, and this is by Rebecca Roanhorse. I forget what the series name is, but the first book was Rising Sun, I want to say. Black Sun, sorry. I'm getting myself all confused. Black Sun, and it's the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. I was halfway through the first book, and I was like, I need more. And so I got the second and third book from Pango. The third book is potentially on my November TBR. And so I'm very excited to continue the series, especially because it's definitely a more complex world. And because of that, I don't want too much time to go past in between reading these books. So basically, in this world, I'm not going to read the synopsis for this one since it is the second book, but you have Zyala is commissioned to. Sorry about that. My voice is having trouble. So anyway, Zyala is commissioned to take this blind and scarred man across the sea, and he needs to get to the city of Tova, I believe it's called, by the time of this celestial event, which is the convergence, which is a solar eclipse. And he needs to get back there. And she's a teak, so she has like her people have a lot of like superstition revolved around them, and they're like a water people. And so she's commissioned to take him, and so you're following their viewpoints. But then in Tova, you also have four different clans, one of which is like the Crow. And they're there was this big event. It does have like indigenous influence and such, and there was an event where they basically got slaughtered, and so they've always kind of had tensions with like this order of the priest, which there's four different leaders there. And so they've always had tension there. And then we're following like the son from that clan. And then you have the other, so it's like political and religious, and you got the fantasy. The magic aspect is not like super prevalent, like it's there in certain aspects, but it's not like everybody has like magic in this world. It's still kind of like a superstitious thing, but like the different clans have like different creatures that basically are their mascots and are kind of unique as well, like not real world creatures. So it really is a very interesting series, but it is a little bit more complex. So I wanted to get to the second one as soon as possible, and I knew the soonest that was going to be was October, because I read the first book in July. I already had my August set and September. I do a lot of reading, so that was out. So that's going in that spot, even though, like I said, it doesn't quite fit sci-fi. I figure it's close enough. Then we got uh, another yellow, which is historical, and we got The Lost City of Atlantis, which is Search for Treasure. This one wasn't going to work for any of the books I had, so I used another reward token, so I'm down to just one reward token now, which is good because I want to use them, like that's what they're there for. So for this does fit the historical aspect, which I'm very happy about, and that's The Girl in the Tower by Katherine Arden. This is book 2 in a trilogy, the Winter Night trilogy. The first one was The Bear and the Nightingale, which I absolutely love. There's a lot of like Russian influence, kind of like folklore aspect. And we're following Vasilisa, or Vasya, and she kind of bucks tradition. Like, obviously, like, women are expected to fulfill a certain role, so there's a lot of gender expectations. And her stepmom like shuts down like any like mention of the old gods or anything like that. So the village where she lives, the people honored the old gods. But since her stepmom came in, like is no, shuts that down and very focused on the newer religion. And so things are kind of falling apart, and this kind of entity of the woods starts to awaken. And it's really just, I loved the vibes of this book. And I'm excited to see where this one continues from there. So, very happy to have gotten this on. And then the third book, again, is potentially on my November TBR. So, my November TBR, like I said, is also very stacked because there's a lot of series I want to continue. And then the last couple priority reads as well that I want to get to. So hopefully the game is as nice to me in November as it was here. So then we got another blue, but we're going to completely ignore this, especially because we got the Mickey Mouse gang and we got Grumpy Sunshine. And for this, I was thinking of Donald Duck and Daisy when I made that prompt, because Donald's very grumpy. And it works because one of my priority series, which this one wasn't a super priority series because it is going to be a new series for me, but it was one that I did want to start this year, and so I did write it in my journal as a priority. And so I'm going to be reading the Dreamland Billionaire series. And so for this prompt, I put the first book, which is The Fine Print. This is by Lauren Asher. And this one I double checked because based on the synopsis, it sounded kind of like it would be Grumpy Sunshine, but I did just Google it and it said yes, it is. So you have Rowan, and it says, I'm in the business of creating fairy tales, theme parks, production companies, five-star hotels. Everything could be all mine if I renovated Dreamland. My initial idea of hiring Zara was good in theory, but then I kissed her. Things spiraled out of control once I texted her using an alias. By the time I realized where I went wrong, it was too late. People like me don't get happy endings, not when we're destined to ruin them. And then Zara. After submitting a drunk proposal criticizing Dreamland's most expensive ride, I should have been fired. Instead, Rowan Kane offered me a dream job. The catch? I had to work for the most difficult boss I'd ever met. Rowan was rude and completely off limits, and that rude part was what kind of clued me in. But my heart didn't care. At least not until I discovered his secret. It was time to teach the billionaire that money couldn't fix everything, especially not us. So this one, just when people talk about it, it definitely sounds like up my alley. And so I'm excited to start this series. Then let's see here. Then we got Red, and for this one we got the dictionary word of the day. So I just googled that, and then I went to Merriam-Webster, that site, and the word of the day was flagrant, which basically means you disregard the rules so much so that it just cannot be ignored. And so for this one, not really romance, but there is romance in here. And so I'm going to be going with the third books in the Diviner series, which is Before the Devil Breaks You. And this was a priority series for me. And so the fourth book, again, we'll be trying to get on in November. And this one, one of our main characters, what is her name? Evie, I want to say? I think it's Evie. It doesn't say the names here, but Evie very much has a flagrant disregard for rules and safety, um, and just kind of sometimes the feelings of others. Like, so I think her in particular, that character definitely fits the rules and fits that prompt, that word. And so I think some of the other characters as well. So basically in this series, you have Evie, and when she touches objects, she like gets a glimpse into like the connection people have to that object. And so basically you have a group of diviners, but this evil is trying to rise. And so the first couple books, like the first book, they weren't really connected to each other, and then in the second book the diviners started connecting to each other. And so each one kind of has a different like main plot for this book so far, and it sounds like this one it will as well. But then you have the series subplot of this evil that's trying to rise. It's 1920s jazz era, and so prohibition. And so yeah, I just really want to continue the series, and I just have the last two. I haven't loved the first two. There's just something that kind of is just a disconnect for me, but I enjoy the vibes and such. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And so this will be going on for that. And like I said, there is romance, even though it's not a romance. It's more like historical, magical realism, supernatural. But there is romance between some of the characters. Then we got a purple, which is a completely free choice this year, which is very helpful. Which is kind of why I did that. And so going forward, like next year, purple will continue to be just completely free. No Hunny Jar prompt or anything like that. And so for this one, I put the second book in the Knock 'em Out series by Lucy Score. This is Things We Hide from the Light. Again, the third one is going to be hopefully on November. So you'll be seeing a lot of continuation of the series in November. Like I said, I'm really hoping it works for the game. And so in this series, you have like this small town. I'm going to go ahead and read this because even though it's a series, like it's following the different couples and there's really no spoilers on the back. So it says, Police Chief Nash Morgan is known for two things, being a good guy and the way his uniform accentuates his butt. 2 bullets put a dent in that southern charm, but thankfully spared his spectacular rear end. He's got his hands full with the man who shot him still on the loose. Healing wounds and citizens that think of the law as more of a guideline. Throw in the gloomy mood that clings to him, and the last thing he needs is a smart-mouthed, gorgeous new neighbor, making him feel things he doesn't have the energy to feel. Lena Solovita has her own reasons for being in town. She's on a mission, and the fewer people that find out about it, the better. She does her best work alone, and as soon as she finds what she's after, she's hitting the road for the next solo adventure. Too bad the town of Knock 'em Out has other ideas. Soon Lena finds herself sucked into small town life, dog sitting, saying yes to a bridesmaid's dress, listening to the sexy AF chief of police service himself in the shower. But when Nash finds out why she's there, flirty friends become furious enemies. The sparks flying don't know the difference between lust and hate. When danger forces them together, it's only a matter of time before they both get burned. So I really was pleasantly surprised by the first book in this series. And so I'm very excited to get into this. And I also read another Lucy score, I think in July as well, Mr. Fixer Upper. And I'm going to be reading the companion to that one for Christmas because it's a Christmas book. And I just really like this author's writing. Like, I've only read 2 books, but it really hits the mark for me. So I'm excited to finally continue with this series. Like I said, hopefully I can wrap it up in November. Then we got a red, but it was the North Pole, so literally didn't have to worry about genre at all. And for this one, we got Encanto and its generational family. So for this one, like I had some options. Which was the other one I was? Oh, the next one I'm going to talk about would have worked for this one, and the next 2 actually would have worked for this one. I went with this one though because I just really want to prioritize the series. So I put the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires on the TBR, and the reason I'm doing this is because they're inheriting the Dreamland theme park and such from their grandfather. So I figured that works because it's an inheritance, so it's a family, it's a generational family thing, their company and everything like that. And so that's where my mind went there. And so yes, I'll get the first 2 books on this one read in October, and then the third one hopefully I'll read it in November. So this one follows Declan, and it says, I'm destined to become the next CEO of my family's media empire. The only problem? My grandfather's inheritance clause. Fulfilling his dying wish of getting married and having an heir seemed impossible until my assistant volunteered for the job. Our marriage was supposed to be the perfect solution to my biggest problem. But the more we act in love for the public, the more unsure I feel about our contract. Caring about Iris was never part of the deal, especially not when breaking her heart is inevitable. Iris. My plan to marry Declan was simple in theory. Move in together, throw a wedding, have a baby. We set rules to prevent any kind of issues, ones that were never meant to be broken, no matter how much Declan tempts me. But what happens when our fake relationship leads into our real one? Falling in love was never an option, at least not for me. So, I'm very excited about that. So those are the books that are for the game TBR. I'll just hold them up here since it's actually a manageable stack for once. So yeah, so these are all the books for the game TBR, which I'm very excited about. It's very manageable. And like I said, I only had to add on the Spy Family book, which is a manga, super quick and super easy. And I only had to add on 3 extras. I only have 2 here. 3 extras, and I forgot about 1, but I will talk about it. And then the other 3, like I said, they're just going to go back on the shelf. But the first extra is for the Adventures in Aldea, but this was supposed to be for September. But because of my reading in September, I was just like, it'll go on to October, and it needed to be a light blue cover. I do remember this one, and so I chose The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. I've been finding these, I think one of them I found in a little free library. I know I found a couple at like thrift stores. And so I've been kind of collecting this author, but I have yet to read anything by it. And it's, a light blue cover, so this works perfectly. And this one could have worked for generational as well, because it says, the Tower Motel was once a thriving attraction of rural Vermont. Today it lies in disrepair, alive only in the memory of the 3 women, Amy, Piper, and Piper's kid sister, Margot, who played there as children. They loved exploring the abandoned rooms until the day their innocent games uncovered something dark and twisted that ruined their friendship forever. Now Amy stands accused of committing a horrific crime, and the only hint as to her motives is a hasty message that forces Piper and Margot to visit the motel's past and the fate of two sisters who lived there in its heyday. Sylvia Slater had dreams of running off to Hollywood and becoming Alfred Hitchcock's leading lady, while her little sister Rose was content with her simple life. Each believed the other to be something truly monstrous, but only one knows the secret that will haunt the generations to come. And so, that would have worked. I would have taken that. And so, yeah, I'm excited to finally give this author a try so I know if I want to try the other two books I have by them. And so that's just an extra, like I said, it's a high priority because it's for Aldia, but also if I don't get to it, I'm not too worried. And this one, I believe this book was back in May, I want to say, prompt. I need to read a mystery, and I rolled it over, and then I decided it wasn't working. And so I decided I would just wait until October. And so that's How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. And this is just not a genre that I typically like, and so I'm not very pulled towards it. I don't gravitate towards it, but this one does sound interesting, and so I am hopeful that I will enjoy it. And so yeah, I'm gonna try to get it read in October. So it says Frances Adams always said she'd be murdered. She was right. It's 1965, and teenage Frances Adams is at an English country fair with her two best friends. But Frances's life takes a hairpin turn when a fortune teller makes a bone-chilling prediction. One day, Frances will be murdered. Frances spends a lifetime trying to solve a crime that hasn't happened yet, compiling dirt on every person who crosses her path in an effort to prevent her own demise. For decades, no one takes Frances seriously until that is, nearly 60 years later, when Frances is found murdered. In the present day, Annie Adams has been summoned to a meeting at the sprawling country estate of her wealthy and reclusive great aunt Frances. So again, you have that generational family aspect. But by the time Annie arrives in the quaint English village of Castle Knoll, Frances is already dead. Annie is determined to catch the killer, but thanks to Frances's lifelong habit of digging up secrets, it seems every endearing and eccentric villager might just have a motive for her murder. Can Annie safely unravel the dark mystery at the heart of Castle Knoll, or will dredging up the past throw her into the path of a killer? As Annie gets closer to the truth and closer to the danger, she starts to fear she might inherit her great aunt's fate instead of her fortune. So there is that one. Like I said, Aldia, if I don't complete it all, it's fine. I'm not that concerned, but I would really like to read those two. Then the next book I'm doing for my genre-a-thon, and hopefully, fingers crossed, for my family book club. I'm really hoping they all vote for this book. I always give 3 options, and then we all vote. But this is the one I'm voting for, and I really hope everybody else does. I think my sister will, because I've already talked to her about it. And that is, what is it called? Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesare? If I'm mispronouncing that, I do apologize. I did look it up. It's not spelled that way, but that's how it says it's pronounced. It's like an Italian name, and that's how it's pronounced. But I don't know for sure if that's how the author pronounces it, but that's how the internet said to pronounce it, so I'm going with that. So Adam Cesare, and this one is a slasher book. So the prompt for my genre-a-thon is spooky season, to read a horror book that makes you uncomfortable, like body horror or bug horror, or to read a slasher book. And so I'm going the slasher route. I don't really read slashers. They're not my favorite horror movies. I like more like the supernatural, spooky type vibes than slasher type vibes. But this one just sounds interesting. I'm not planning on continuing the series. I literally just want to read this first book because the other books I have not heard any great things except the first book. People seem to really enjoy. And it's perfect for spooky season. So basically, this one you have a small town, and you have a high school student, and her father moves them there. And the school mascot is a clown, and it ends up going on like a murdering spree. Um, And so, yeah, that's what I'm going with. So there's that. And then the other one that I almost completely forgot about is the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. My husband and I are about 100 pages from finishing the first book, and we absolutely love it. So we already have the second book, but I knew I wouldn't be able to get to it in September, so I told him we have to wait till October. But we definitely want to continue that series. It's so much fun, and reading it with him, like, we laugh, and like if something, there's a lot of pop culture references, which if you've been around, that's a pet peeve of mine. It really works for the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Like, that's kind of the whole point. And so, like, if something goes over my head, my husband catches it. If something goes over his head, I catch it. It's like there was a Gilmore's Girl reference, which he had no clue about. And then, yeah, it's so much fun. There was a Gossip Girl reference, which he doesn't. He's like, "Do you know that show, those characters?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that episode though, but it's just a lot of fun." And reading aloud with him, like, there'll be something that comes up and we'll laugh and we'll talk about it and such. So we kind of like start and stop as we're reading, but it's very engaging. And we're both having a blast with it. So we'll be reading the second book for that. And yeah, the three books that I did not get on were the Montana Hamilton series by B.J. Daniels. I found all but the last book of the series at a thrift store. I was originally going to read them in November too, so I have them right here. And so yeah, I had all but the Wild Horses one at the thrift store. Um, and so I picked them up because they sounded interesting. And so it's the father is running for president, and then it's following each of the children's, but it's romance. And so, like, in this first one, um, somebody's like, she's a target because her father's running for president. And so the love interest is basically an undercover bodyguard for her. And so, yeah, I just really think it's a Harlequin um, did these ones, but I didn't get to them. And instead of trying to like shove them all into the next 2 months, especially since I wasn't able to get any on the TBR to work for the TBR, I'm just gonna put these back on my shelf for now, and I will try to read um, at least one every couple months next year, and that way I can hopefully get them read next year. But I'm not gonna push it this year. Like I said, only have a couple months left. I don't want to stress myself out. So that is it for me. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books, or maybe a book that you have that you're really excited, um, or a book you want to prioritize before the end of the year. I'd love to know that down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know you're here and you helping to support the channel by commenting, because that is always very, very helpful. It helps with engagement. You can leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.